Teachers, yoga teachers, the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm sure you found them all.
I have.
Quest.
I've seen it all. I happened to stumble in my second yoga class. I just went to a sort of funky little studio near my house, and I stumbled into this class of sort of, there were all different kinds of people in the class. There were sort of moms in their purple leotards, sort of, or their purple, I guess, Lululemon tops, sort of all but lactating through their tops. And there were old people, and there was a kid who used to go there. There was like a guy who used to go in his jeans and belt. And I think that when you walk into a yoga class and there's all different kinds of people, that's your first sign that you're in a really good yoga class, and that you have a real teacher who can really be inclusive and support everyone's
Of course.
experience.
Well, what I love about it is most yoga instructors, I don't know at all levels, but they say, if that's not for you, don't do it.
Right.
Go to the child's pose.
Right.
Or lie down.
Right. Absolutely.
You go, okay.
Right.
And it's not supposed to be competitive. I don't know about hot yoga.
Well, I do hot yoga now, and my teacher actually handles the competitiveness in a really interesting way. If she starts to, and I'm still very much in that yummy mummy environment in my hot yoga practice. Right. And if she senses that everybody's becoming competitive, she makes us jump up and down, like intolerably, just sort of till you can't do it anymore.
Right.
And that just sort of breaks you.
I'm sure
I thought
it
that
does.
was a good, yeah.
But as you know, if you go with somebody who's a great athlete to a yoga class, they will try and be better than you are just because they're
Absolutely.
that kind of athlete.
Right. I mean, yeah.
I'm not competing with you. You don't have to do this pose. You can't even touch your toes.
Right.
It's okay.
And then you get to have the feeling that you're sort of winning because you're the one who's being non-competitive.
Of course.
A
And
paradox.
exercising my inner organs, I think. That too.
And your inner peace.
And my inner peace and all of that. But I love the story in the book when you go to baby co-op. I think it's called baby co-op because you're trying to be perfect mom.
Absolutely. So I go to baby co-op, and ever since I was pregnant, I'm told that I'm supposed to sign up for baby co-op because that's what you're supposed to do. And baby co-op is a place where you go and there's a teacher and you pay for it, but you also go and help take care of your child while you're there. So as my husband said, you're paying for it and you have to go.
And you're paying to work.
Exactly. Explain the point again. But it was just, I walk in and there's this just room full of earnest women in their Danceco clogs, all trying to do everything perfectly. And it was a moment where I really felt like I could see the desperation and the difficulty of being a mom in this particular environment.
And the wheels on the bus go round and round, and
you
you're
have to
all
sing.
singing.
Yeah.
Of course you are. You're participating, and part of you is going, ew.
Right.
What happened to my Sex in the City life?
Right, totally. I used to be cool, and now I'm doing
I was
this.
so hip, and now look at me. And you can relate, and you're still hip, and all of that. What's the message in Poser, My Life in 23 Yoga Poses? What's not the message so much as the essence of it? A little relief for women to say, it's fabulous. You're perfect, but you don't have to be.
I think that at some point in the book I say that the opposite of good isn't bad, the opposite of good is real. And I thought a lot about this idea that when we pursue being good all the time, we get caught up in how things ought to be rather than how they are. And what I learned in the book and in my yoga practice was what would it be like just to uncompromisingly try to experience what's actually happening and what's real. And maybe that can be an antidote to these pressures.
And tap into what I really enjoy.
Even just what's really happening to me rather than what I think I'm supposed to be doing.
So what did you learn about you? About your marriage, about you as a mom, I'm sure you checked with the fam before you wrote all this.
In the process of writing the book? I learned that I have a lot of self-conceptions that I'm very relaxed, but I'm actually pretty uptight and worried, and that was a good thing to learn. And I also learned some really cool things about my family in the process of writing this book, because they were very, very open to the experience, and they're all great readers, and they just sort of said, do what you need to do. So I learned about generosity and tolerance from that.
So your husband, when you sat down, did he read it all the way along the way? Because he's a writer.
He is a writer.
And he knows Wade Davis.
He's also an environmental journalist and works for National Geographic. So there's some overlap there.
Yeah, Kismet.
Yeah, exactly.
Kismet in the green room today.
It's all happening there.
Yeah. So how did it change him, or did it change himself? or did he love it, or not want to be that exposed? Not that you totally expose him, but he is part of the process in Poser.
He had a friend whose wife wrote a memoir right when I was in the process of writing this book, and he read that, and it was a very exposing memoir. And I remember he just tossed the book to me across the table and said, I could live with that level of exposure. So we had a yardstick, and that was really neat to know exactly how far I could go. But one of the great gifts of this book was I write a lot about my husband's depression in it. And I kind of out him as a depressive and, tell his story. And, once the book came out, we heard from so many people, both strangers and also men we know, saying young dads are experiencing these pressures as well, and they're experiencing them, in depression. And, go figure, their wives are like going off the rails and becoming control freaks. Strangely enough, they're sort of becoming sad.
Sure, and part of them is saying, I am supposed to be the man in the family.
Right.
That's deeply rooted, I think.
Exactly. I think it is too. And that was, I was experiencing all these sort of biological urges to mother in a certain way, and I think he was feeling a lot of those same either cultural or biological pressures to provide. And I think that really surprised both of us how quickly we fled to those roles.
Sure. I mean, our dads could get out of it because they'd say, I don't change diapers.
Right, exactly.
Like my dad.
And they didn't have
dropped rather than change a diaper, and he's going golfing.
Exactly. And when they had the kids, they were babysitting our dads, right? Oh, I'll babysit today.
Yes, they always babysit. And you say, this is your child. You're not babysitting.
Right, you're not babysitting. Do I have to pay you?
Right. Well, perhaps.
Yeah.
Because if they babysat, then they could go to the golf course twice.
Right.
you know how it is.
Yeah.
One of the critics compared this to Eat, Pray, Love. It's it's not really. What do you think about that?
I get that a lot, and what I always say is that this would be what happened if the Eat, Pray, Love woman couldn't go anywhere, but had to stay home and deal with life. Yeah. And deal with her kids and her husband. So encountering some of that same trying to figure out the right way to live, but how do you do it when you've got the laundry and the kids and the job and the whole big picture?
Sure, and you want the prescription for modern day happiness.
Right.
What is it? Pray tell. Why 23? I know you've been asked that question 23 or more times.
I have been asked it 23 or more times. It was just how those were the ones that worked. It wasn't. It's not a match. Though apparently that's like some kind of power number.
Which pose is your boyfriend pose? You said one of the poses was it the eagle? You said that's my new boyfriend.
The
Lotus.
Lotus was my new boyfriend.
I think it was Lotus.
I thought about it when I went to sleep at night and when I woke up in the morning.
See?
Yeah.
And somebody said to you, a piece of best advice, I won't give it all away, that keep the gaze within the area of your mat.
Husband your gaze.
Husband your gaze within the area of your mat. In life and in yoga class, what did that mean?
In yoga class, certainly it just means, we were talking about non-competitiveness. It means bringing your attention into your own area.
Right.
And I think that can be carried out into life in the sense of stop comparing yourself, stop judging yourself by other people's standards.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a metaphorical play going on there.
Sure. Does the husband do yoga?
So I'd been doing yoga maybe 1 or 2 years, and it was really hard for me, and I was making really crummy progress. And my husband skates into class with me for the first time and can do everything. He's like one of those annoying natural athletes. So he pops in every once in a while and does everything perfectly and then leaves for like 3 years.
Even the headstand.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, it's worth buying the book to read about you doing the headstand, for sure. So book signing today, 6:30 p.m., Banyan Books.
Absolutely.
How great. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Poser, My Life in 23 Yoga Poses, Claire Dederer, our guest.